Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for servicemen and women throughout the world and for those who have passed away in our community, including Rita O'Hora. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Here.
Mr. Schuster?
Present.
Dr. Rothchild? Here. Mr. McAndrew?
Present.
Mr. King?
Here. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, correspondence regarding a budget transfer received November 29, 2023. 3B, amendments to the City of Scranton 2024 General City Operating Budget. 3C, correspondence received December 4th, 2023 from the Business Administration regarding a budget transfer for City Council advertising expenditures.
Are there any comments on any of the third order items? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have any announcements at this time?
I just have one. Weston Field, there's a water main break at Weston Field, so it'll close the rest of the day. They believe it should be repaired tonight, but anyone going down there for tomorrow, I would call first. That's all.
Thank you.
I have a quick one. So, the Lackawanna County Children's Library proudly presents the Polar Express Pajama Party. It's part of the Sundays with Friends event series. So they want you to join them with your jammies for a cozy afternoon reading of the Polar Express, plus lots of treats and fun at the Polar Express party. It is Sunday, December 10th, from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. for families and kids and all ages. And of course, we know it's right down here on 520 Vine Street. And you can register by calling the library at 570-348-3000, extension 3015. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAndrew. Anyone else?
I want to wish a happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate. It's going to be beginning this Thursday at sundown, and then we'll be continuing until next Friday. And there's also a Hanukkah street festival for anyone interested, and that's going to be Sunday, December 10th from 12 to 3, and that's going to be at the Scranton JCC over at 601 Jefferson Avenue. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild.
There will be a benefit for Katie Esposito on 12/15 from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Ukrainian Veterans Club. Anybody that can attend to help the family would be appreciated. That's all. I'd like to make a motion to take from the table file of council number 98 of 2023.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second to take from the table file council number 98 in 2023. This piece of legislation is being taken from the table and placed in seventh order for final vote.
Fourth order, citizen participation.
Joan Hodawanitz.
Scranton. And what's the status of the 2022 audit?
Frank, it's been received, right?
It has, and it's under review by the auditor, CLP, and per the Business Administration Office, we expect that probably in a week or two.
Okay, so you're going to pass the budget tonight without having a completed audit. And this we do year after year, but who am I to criticize? And what is the status of the firefighter and police union contracts that were supposed to be on the website after 120 days?
The attorneys for both sides are still finalizing all the language, and hopefully once that's completed, we'll get them posted on the website.
Yeah, I understand you're looking for a new council solicitor. Attorney Gallagher, you should look into becoming a labor council. There's a lot of money to be made. I'm serious. Speaking of money to be made, is there a cap on the contract with Ufberg for those police and firefighter contracts which date back to November of 2021, since we don't seem to have an end date?
I don't believe there is a cap.
Is there one? No? Well, see, that's why you should become a labor council, and you can have these open-ended contracts and go ka-ching, ka-ching. Are you married? I am. Oh, damn. Okay. The Honeywell contract, 5C, I saw, the cost is $489,000, and it's coming out of the city budget. Where in the city budget? I didn't see anything in the fire department or capital budget, or where's this $489,000 coming from?
We are hopefully going to introduce that, and we have a number of questions concerning that.
We'll add that one.
We'll add that one, John.
I do
Okay,
think that
thank
one,
you.
I do think that one's already on the list, correct?
I think it was on the list.
Good.
It is coming out of the general fund, but where?
Yes, but where
it's
in the
located.
general fund?
Right.
Okay, that's a lot of money, $489,000.
I'm thinking maybe other salaries, I'm not sure, under the fire department.
Okay. The article in the paper about the lawsuit with Scartelli Construction involving the Sorrenti Center and the Novembrino splash pad. Now, that thing's kind of hung fire for a long time. I know that Marie Schumacher's been asking repeatedly the status of the Sorrenti Center. Now that we know that this is involved in litigation, can we at least get a status of the Sorrenti Center and the Novembrino splash pad in terms of, are they ready for prime time use? What shortfalls do they have? Are we going to have to invest more money to get shortfalls corrected? We should, litigation aside, we should at least know where we stand with those two properties. Can we find that out?
And we'll see if we can get an update.
Yeah. I need the details on litigation, because I know you won't give that to
We
me.
haven't even been briefed on, as far as we haven't been briefed on that litigation.
Okay, but I just want to know, what shape is the Sorrenti Center in, and what shape is the Novembrino splash pad in? Because those are city assets. Also, with regard to the changes I saw that you made to the proposed budget for 2024, I just have some basic comments. And one is that the current administration, there seems to have been almost a revolving door in terms of department heads. A lot of people have passed through the doors of City Hall in the last 3-4 years. Yet you see a lot of proposed pay raises for those department heads. And my only comment is, I think pay raises are appropriate, not just for recruiting and retention, but in recognition for performance and achievements and accomplishments. And considering the number of people that have come and gone, I'm not sure that major pay raises are justified. So I hope you keep that in mind, because we'll see the same thing next year. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Kara Kennedy Ware.
Good evening, Scranton City Council. My name is Kara Kennedy Ware, local school administrator, resident, and taxpayer. I come forward this evening with a sense of urgency as an advocate for all students residing in the Greenridge section of Scranton. Over the past few months, our neighborhood community has seen a rash of violent crime, including carjackings, burglaries, reports of gunshots, vandalism, and an incident where a local neighbor was beaten as she was trying to enter her home with her children in tow. As a lifelong resident of the neighborhood, I remember in the mid-1990s, the city deemed it no longer necessary to assign a car in Greenridge due to low crime. Fast forward to 2023, that is no longer the case. We, the local residents of the neighborhood, deserve to have this service that is funded by our taxes. As you are aware, when in the business of education, you are also in the business of marketing, not only your school's programming, but also the neighborhood where the schools reside. Prospective families that are looking to relocate to Scranton look at the overall quality of life, safety, good housing stock, schools, parks, libraries, and the ability to safely traverse within a community. Ensuring a police presence in the Greenridge community will solidify your commitment to its residents. I appreciate your attention and support in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ware. Christina Kennedy Donato.
Hi, good evening. I am here on behalf of the parents of the school that my son goes to, St. Clair St. Paul School, and I am wondering how we designate the St. Clair St. Paul School campus as a school zone. I have been in contact with the mayor about getting crosswalks painted and designating it as a school zone. I have received confirmation from the mayor, and I was informed that crosswalks were painted in the 1600 block going into the 1500 block of Penn Avenue, crossing over to Greenridge. But that is not enough. My 9-year-old son, along with many other students, walk to and from school every day. The crossing guard is there for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. She's a 75-year-old lady with no signage designating that area as a school zone. So she goes out with a stop sign and a prayer, hoping that the cars are going to cross. I've been informed by my son and by other students that the cars are not stopping, they're slowing down and skimming by the students as they cross. This is not acceptable, so I'm here today to ask how council can assist in designating this campus, both of these campuses actually, as a school zone, so we can have the proper signage that designates speed limit and that allows traffic to understand they are coming up on a school zone, that they're not just stopping at one particular crosswalk, because both sides of the campus have to be designated. It needs more than one crosswalk because the students are coming from more than one area. So I'm wondering, and I'm asking you tonight, how do we proceed? How do we move forward with this topic?
I will contact the chief. I've been in contact with the principal, Mrs. Ware, twice this week. I have been on the phone with our police chief. I spoke to the mayor this afternoon about these concerns. So I just took down some notes concerning it's the first time I've asked for a designation as a school zone. So we'll look into seeing what needs to happen to make that happen. And believe me, it will be a priority.
Because when I look at, thank you, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Because when I look at the University of Scranton and I look at Mulberry Street, that should be the standard. I feel that it's good enough for the University of Scranton. It should be good enough for the taxpayers and the students who walk to school on a daily basis. It definitely should be the standard. And I'm asking for your support and your help in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Donato. Mary Dempsey? Judge Mary Dempsey? No? Oh, okay. Mary Dempsey.
Mary Dempsey.
former council.
Got to get the cheers on. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Dempsey. I'm here as a resident and taxpayer. I would like to make it clear I'm not here in any professional capacity whatsoever. I'm just here as a lifelong resident of the city and someone who immensely cares for it. I've owned my own home in Greenridge for 28 years, and I was raised there before by my parents for most of my life. I'm one of the people who, with all due respect, has a choice where to live. I can choose to live outside the city. I can choose to move. I choose not to. I care too much about this city. I've tried to do everything I can to make it better. I have one adult child who already bought a home 3 blocks away from me in Greenridge. I have another adult child renting a home out there who wants to buy a home, adding steady, reliable taxpayers to our tax base. I'd also like to make it very clear to each of you tonight who I know and respect, nothing here is adversarial. This is nothing more than a passionate plea by residents of the Greenridge neighborhood to request a patrol car out in our neighborhood. I respect the police in Scranton very much. The few times I have needed them when my alarm went off mistakenly, they were very quick to respond, they were very kind, and they were very respectful. I think many of you are familiar with our neighborhood. We house Marywood College, we house many nursing homes, we have 2 amazing grade schools. Principal Ware already spoke, and we have Robert Morris as well. We have churches, we have restaurants, we have retail stores. We have 2 distinct business districts. We have the Greenridge Corners, and we have the other area over by Marion Street and Cup House Avenue with Nearest Pizza, Nada and Company. There's a yoga studio and, of course, Zumos Coffee Shop, and I believe there's a barber shop. This is exactly where the carjacking took place. For the most part, we're educated homeowners, okay? We have car alarms, we have Ring doorbells, we have extensive lighting, we keep it on at night, we have outdoor video cameras, we know to report incidents to the police so they have a record of it, and we know our neighbors because it's a generational neighborhood. We were raised there and we buy homes there. But times are changing, and we now need a patrol car to hopefully act as a deterrent and to hopefully pick up any suspicious activity before it becomes a crime. Now, only from talking to my fellow neighbors and only from reading the newspaper have I learned that we've had 5 to 6 car thefts in about the last 60 to 90 days in a 5 to 6 block radius. I know that out on the end of North Washington Avenue by Marywood College, there has been blue paintball guns sprayed on white cars, causing property damage and obviously remedial costs to our homeowners. I know that there's an alleged drug house in the neighborhood that people have been talking about. I know that 2 weeks ago in the 1700 block of Wyoming Avenue at the intersection of Wyoming and Delaware, a neighbor was awakened to the sound of gunshots. And I know when the cops came to investigate, only from what the neighbor told me, no other information, they did find the case shellings, but I have no further information on that. I know that about 4 weeks ago in the 1600 block of Penn, 1 block away from Principal Ware's school and 5 blocks away from Robert Morris School, a family member of mine who owns a home there called me and said, there's about 10 police cars here right now. It was 10 at night. He was told that night by someone on the scene that there was an arrest and 2 guns were found in the 1600 of Penn. Something is changing, and it is frightening. In fact, it's downright dangerous. And thus we do believe and we ask that a police presence must commence again after a long, long hiatus. If you'll allow me to wax nostalgic for 1 minute, in the old days when I was being raised, police cars were around all the time. You and your parents knew who the police officers was. We'd see them getting a Hank's Hoagie. We'd see them at the Greenridge Diner. If we were playing a kickball game, the truth be told, they'd stop and say, hey, what's the score? And if it was a good day, they'd take a kick for us. When I was raising my kids, I'm taking you back a couple decades now, we had a foot patrol. I do believe it was funded by a grant. And we also had a bike patrol for a couple summers. I do believe that was funded by a grant. But they stopped, and they talked to us, and they heard our concerns, and they gave little gold badges to the kids, and they created trust with our children and our residents. It also created a community policing environment, and more important, hopefully acted as a deterrent to future violent crime. I have to think that when criminals are staking or stalking out a neighborhood, if they see a police presence, it does act as a deterrent of sorts. To the other residents of the city and all other neighborhoods, we're in this together. I have to think that other areas of the city are manned with patrol cars. West Side, North Scranton, the Hills, South Side, downtown, Kaiser Avenue. So the question becomes, why do we not have the same available services provided, especially now that there was an article in the Scranton Times saying that our community is being targeted, the exact word. We've been put on notice, to be quite frank with you. I'm a pragmatic woman. I understand the allocation of resources, but I also understand the concept of equality and fundamental fairness for all. I'm here only to make an impassioned plea to you on behalf of myself that please, please consider a patrol car in Greenridge before something tremendously tragic occurs. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mary. Nancy Perez-Soma.
Thank you. Nancy Burry-Solomon. I live out in Greenridge. I live on Oliphant Avenue. And I love the city of Scranton. I made a choice to come back here and to practice law here. I was a solicitor for the city of Scranton. I bought a home in the city. I bought another property. I bought another property, and I bought another property. And I take care of my parents' property, which is 2 doors away from me. And now I have another property that I inherited in the city of Scranton. I don't want to sell those properties and move out of the city. It's a great town. Raising my son across the street from the Greenridge Little League, it was a dream. He could walk over to the Little League. He could walk up to St. Clair's to school. We could go to church. We could walk everywhere. It was never an issue. He could walk over to my parents' home that's only 2 doors away, and we didn't have to fear anything. Now we have a fear. When my son was growing up, we had a police officer that lived next door. He still lives next door. He's retired. I loved when he parked his car in his driveway. I used to tell my son, he's coming for you. I truly believe that police presence, police cars are a deterrent. Our neighborhood is very diverse. We have people from all different cultures who all want the same thing. I had tenants who were moving out of a property, and I was very disappointed because they're wonderful tenants. They decided to stay because their son said he felt safe in Green Ridge. He didn't want to move to another neighborhood in Scranton. They don't feel the same way now. We have neighbors who had a break-in in a car 3 weeks ago on Boulevard Avenue. It's right around the corner from my home. I would ask that you consider having some resources in the Green Ridge area. It's shocking when I hear now of all these break-ins. I'm concerned about whether or not only will the tenants not want to stay there, but our property values will go down. And when our property values go down, there's more stress on the city because your tax base is going to go down. And people who feel passionate about the city, maybe they didn't run for office like you did, but they continue to stay in the city. I've noticed in our neighborhood we have a car that drives around every single week checking on the quality of life in the city. They measure the grass height in the yards in the summer, and you get a citation for $100 if your grass is higher than 8 inches. I would ask that we have a police patrol car going through to make sure there's no crime. Maybe we put a little bit more emphasis on that rather than on the height of the grass. I see Officer Manning here tonight. I thought it was ironic that we're coming here to ask for an increased police presence. I think we all feel safe in here, and I think I would have felt safe without an officer being present, but the fact that we have an officer present for a council meeting, I think we should have officers that are present in our neighborhood in Green Ridge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Les Spindler.
Meeting Council, Les Spindler, homeowner, Scranton resident. Joan mentioned the splash pad, the Novembrino splash pad. I happened to drive by there Sunday, and the beautiful new playground is there too. And the gate was wide open. And I heard it was open all weekend. There's no reason why that gate should be open all weekend. They should close it at least at night. I'm afraid there's always vandalism in this area. So to have that brand new playground with the gate wide open all weekend, I don't think that's right. So I don't know.
I think didn't we check on that, Frank? I don't want to take your time, Les.
That was sent out.
Okay.
Waiting
I'll
for a
report out the
confirmation.
5th. I asked about that last week, and I got a response, so I'll do it in 5th order.
Okay, next thing. I know council knows I spoke about this before. Bob Bull has presented an Israeli flag to the city, and it hasn't been put up. I wrote a letter to the editor, and that wasn't put in the paper, so I'm being ignored by everybody, so I'm going to read the letter I sent to the Times Tribune now. Recently, Scranton businessman Bob Bull has presented Scranton City Council with the flags of Israel and Ukraine to raise on the flagpole to show the support of the wars they are involved in. 2 weeks passed and the flags were not displayed. I talked to Mayor Cognetti and asked her why the flags were not displayed. She said the Ukraine flag was displayed when they were first attacked. I asked her why not the flag of Israel. Her answer was, it is a sensitive situation. Being a person of the Jewish faith, I was not happy with her answer. I said Israel was attacked without provocation, and our city, which has many Jewish residents, should show our support for Israel. In the past, the city has flown flags of other countries, but won't fly the flag of Israel. I'm asking everyone in our community who supports Israel to call Mayor Cognetti and ask her to fly the flag of Israel because it's the right thing to do. And I think the Times Tribune and Mayor Cognetti are both disrespecting the Jewish people of this city, and I think it's wrong. And I hope they all remember when election day comes around, when the mayor wants to run again, because I know I won't forget it. Next thing about the budget. I see you're probably going to pass it tonight, and I'm glad to see that you lowered the property tax from 3.5% to 2%. But I'm not happy that you're going to okay raises for the non-union employees. I don't think people should be getting raises when a citizens' taxes are being raised all the time. I think that's wrong, and you shouldn't vote for that. Lastly, I was happy to hear that City Council, along with the city, and now I heard you're going to get in touch with Dunmore, going to send a letter to the PUC about the outrageous water rate hike that the Pennsylvania American Water.
We're also going to attend a hearing, and we're going to be requesting that a hearing be held here in Scranton as well. But we're going to try to attend one in Harrisburg and have them hold one here less.
Okay. And you mentioned about the citizens filing complaints. Do you know how we go about that yet, or is that still in the works?
That's going to be announced shortly. That's being coordinated by Senator Flynn's office along with State Reps Kozarowski and Donahue and Kyle Mullins.
Because I'll definitely file a complaint. I'm sure many, many other people will, because these utilities are just out of control. I said it for years, and hope something's done.
It's my understanding, Les, that they may be setting an office up across the street from City Hall, and they're going to have the forms available for people to file formal complaints. I think we're looking to get 500 signatures, 500 people to complain at least, so that we can, try to stop this outrageous increases in our.
I think you'll get more than that. I hope so, anyway.
That'd be great.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Les. Laura Augustini.
Good evening. I'm Laura Augustini. I'm a resident of Greenridge, Scranton, as well as president of the Greenridge Neighborhood Association. The last time I was here was about a couple of different things, and I just wanted to let you know that I did have a very good conversation with Scott Gassenmeyer that same week. We met over at Pretzel Park, and he explained a lot of things to me. I think it was a good dialogue for both of us so that we increased the communication, and I think there was a lot going on that week, which kind of led to some of the miscommunication. But I just wanted to let you know that he did follow through on that, and I appreciated it. To address one of the issues that many of the Greenridge neighborhood residents are here about is with regards to the police presence or lack thereof in the neighborhood of Greenridge. I know that we're not in a qualified census tract, and so we don't qualify for many federal funds or ARPA funds or anything like that, but we do pay a disproportionate percentage of the taxes in the city of Scranton, of the property taxes. And I would request that some of those taxes that we pay be actually used to fund a car to patrol Greenridge. the city can't afford for the property values in Greenridge to decrease, because as go the property values and taxes in Greenridge, so goes the city. That's something that's been evident for a long time. The amount of taxes, or at least the percentage of taxes that Greenridge pays, funds a lot of different things, and we'd like some of that money to be spent in Greenridge rather than elsewhere. We know that we're being targeted, as Mary Dempsey said, because of the type of neighborhood we have, and we're really concerned as a neighborhood association and as the residents about what could potentially happen in Greenridge. It's a walkable area. It's always been a walkable area. We have parks, we have the business districts. Kids are all over the place. And also, we have many elderly residents. People are aging in their homes. They're staying there longer and longer because of the neighborhood that it is. And so there's some concern about what could potentially happen, you know, if somebody sees a vulnerable area or a vulnerable property or home, that we could be looking not just at burglaries, but potentially home invasions and things of that nature, which is very scary to us. So I respectfully request that you look into it to see about having our taxes pay for our police protection. Thank you.
Laura, you have a couple minutes left. As chairman on the Committee of Public Safety, during fifth order tonight, I'll make a motion to bring back the patrol car, all right?
I would appreciate that. I am meeting with the chief and with the mayor next week to discuss this. So, but I would appreciate it being followed up on. Since my email to a couple of different people, we have seen the police presence increase in Greenridge, and we greatly appreciate those drive-bys and that we have more of a police presence. But I need it to be not just when I send an email. I need it to be on a regular basis, that this is something that the car comes back. Not that we're depending on North Scranton to come do a drive-by, you know, when resources are available. Well, I think we need to make the resources available to Greenridge, because we're seeing that it's becoming a problem, and we don't want it to get any worse. Thank you.
In my conversation with the chief yesterday, I emphasized that to him as well. And it seems like they're he's very receptive to increasing patrols in the Greenridge area.
I agree.
We'll push for it.
Okay, I thank you very much. I do appreciate all of what you're doing and the communication that we're getting. I did hear from the chief. Unfortunately, I think it was a little bit of lip service, but you know, we look forward to having more of a police presence.
Thank you. Ron Ellman.
Good evening, Council. I'd like to mention this obscenity about the tax increase. They can't hide it no more. They can't conceal it like they've been doing, those that support it. You know, never in memory has Scranton allowed such a miserable, wretched, untrustworthy accumulage to oversee the city. Now the taxpayers have to suffer some more indignities after all these lies from Wayne Evans and everybody else that promoted it. There wouldn't be any tax increase. I stood here 2 years ago. I'm the bad guy for arguing with everybody. I don't know if everybody read the short article in the paper today, but it said it'd be a 20% increase. They want to give the county wants to allow some breathing room. Everybody's property is going downhill like it must be 10 years ago. The values of the houses started declining. When I bought my house in '94, my neighborhood was really, it was it. Now it's like a slum around there, full of rentals, cars on the sidewalks, broken down cars and driveways, and your code enforcement doesn't see a thing wrong. He can go by my house 70 miles an hour and see a case of water sitting on a lawn chair that they gave me tickets for, but they don't see a broken down car in my backyard on Troop Street that's been there for over 5 years. 2 broken down cars, a school bus that doesn't run in the driveway, but he's worrying about a case of water in my yard. And like the lady said, measuring your lawns. Somebody went in my garage last week. They took a little battery charger, a 100-foot cord that I used to cut the hedge, and 5-gallon can of gasoline, big plastic thing. 25 years, I've never had nobody do anything like that. That's how bad my neighborhood's gotten. And look at the house values. Gerald Cross said years ago, the house values are dropping and dropping. The value of the city was off a couple $1 million. And all we get when you turn around, this one going up, this one's going up. The school board wants to go up 8%. It doesn't stop. And then, like it was said tonight, bonuses and raises for people that just don't deserve them. You have no respect for the taxpayers that are paying for everything. And when I talk to them, nobody votes. I don't know what the apathy is. Well, it's a shame. It's a shame this city's been allowed the past few years such poor people downstairs that oversee this city. You know, I don't make no secret of it. There, almost everything I come forth is I hear at the grocery store at Garrity's or the dollar store somebody will say things. This is a little letter I'm going to give you about somebody. They want to know about these junky electric cars, where they're parked. It's a good question. Now Jeeps aren't supposed to be inside either. I'd like to know where they parked. I asked you a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. Nobody seemed to be interested. Somebody can answer this poor guy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. Lee Morgan.
Good evening, Council. Lee Morgan. You know, the first thing I'd like to say here is that I really appreciate ECTV's finally responding to my complaint in federal court. And I'd like to thank Haggerty, Hinton, and Cosgrove for joining the party. And I really look forward to meeting Mr. Hinton when the hearings begin. But also I'd like to say that Les got up here and spoke about the flag that Mr. Bolus presented to the city. You know, it's the most amazing thing that as Americans, all my life we were taught to respect human rights and to stand up for the underdog. And when you listen to the reports from the hostages that were released from Hamas and the crimes that took place on the ground, you know, the media isn't really covering it, but Fox News is, and Sky News is, and the rest of the world is. And when you've got small children being raped and their hips broken, and you're having women raped and shot in the street, and then you've got a mayor who can't seem to understand that this isn't a Jewish problem, it isn't an Israeli problem, it's a human rights problem. But as Americans, we've just given up on all that because we have the wrong man in the White House. We also have the wrong person down in the mayor's office. And, you know, when you look at what's taking place in this world and the apathy here on the part of council, instead of presenting an argument to the mayor of why that flag should fly, you just sit there. The people have come here, they've discussed this issue. You've seen it. The mayor's seen it. But you know the problem we have? The President of the United States doesn't support it. Okay? He's done so much arm twisting to the Israelis, it's amazing. And you know what I wonder? I wonder what's happening to our 9 Americans that are hostages of Hamas and what cruelties they're enduring, because we have a president who doesn't bring that up. And you know, to move on to a different subject, today we're listening about the problems in Greenridge. And you know, when I remember my childhood, this city was much different. This city, over a protracted period of time, has elected failed leadership. And you know, I think that Chris Doherty really sped the decline of the city up by his incompetence in office. And we've had just terrible councils. And one police car in Greenridge isn't going to do a thing. Because the people driving around stealing everything, they see where the victims are. They take their time in picking who they're going to rob. One police car, that's a nice thing to send up. It makes people feel good. But it doesn't change the reality that America rapidly is becoming a third world country. All the cities are ringed by homeless people. We're being overrun by migrants from other countries who've walked across our border. We have incompetent government on every level. And it's just, for people to come here and think that, well, to finally open their eyes and see that we're in trouble here. You know, after 30 years of distress, you've got to ask yourself, did everybody stick their head under a pillow or what? I mean, what did they do? When you take a look at ECTV, it's a propaganda channel. There's no public access to it. These people can't go on ECTV and talk about any issue unless the council, the mayor, or the government of Scranton decides it's acceptable. There's no free discussion of ideas here. The only answer for this city is to rewrite the charter and change the way this city functions. And if it's necessary to remove the council completely, so be it. If it's time to hire a business manager to run the city, so be it. If decisions should be made by neighborhood groups and passed on to a business manager to run the city, then that's what we need to do. But this decline cannot continue forever.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard?
Good evening, Council. My name is Harry McGrath. I am a resident of the Greenridge section of the City of Scranton, and I'm just here to echo some of the comments from my fellow neighbors earlier today. My wife Stephanie and I made the decision to purchase a home in Greenridge and raise our 4 children there. And I think that the request to increase the police presence there just is good government and is common sense. One of the great things about living in that neighborhood is that there is a lot of young families that have made the decision to come back there. And when you drive up and down the street during the day, you can see any number of kids playing in the front yard, having a, just nice childhood, frankly. And the recent rash and the recent crime wave that we've seen has been particularly unsettling, given that it's happening, in really brazen fashion. There are cars being stolen out of people's driveways. You know, there's obviously the carjacking at gunpoint that occurred right in front of Zumos. And these are just not the kind of things that had occurred over, you know, the last several decades, or maybe ever in the neighborhood. And I think that, you know, the city's lucky to have Green Ridge as a place where people can be proud to raise their family. And I think that allocating, you know, resources there is a good investment for the city. And, you know, all the other great points that were made earlier, I won't reiterate, but I just wanted to go on record and just voice my support for that to be implemented. So thank you, and I hope you guys can make that happen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. McGrath. Is there anyone else like to be heard?
Thank you, Council, for letting me speak. I'm Attorney Jim Doherty, and I'm also a resident of Green Ridge. And I just wanted to give you my own personal input and why I think it's so important that we get increased police protection, and also if we could get increased traffic control devices around or near St. Paul's School. My wife's car was one of the ones that were carjacked, and they took it right in front of my son's house. We had it on videotape, and it was, as Harry said, the most brazen thing I've ever seen. Two guys just walked right by the car, they walked back again, and because the car was unlocked, because she's in my son's house all the time, in and out, they were able to observe that the outside mirrors were open, and that told them that the car was unlocked. They jumped in the car. 2 seconds later, my son pulls into the driveway with one of his children. Now, my wife was in the house, his house, with one of his other children. As soon as he went down the driveway, they jumped the curb and took off, went down Delaware Street. A second after that, I pulled in the driveway with my son's other son, because we were going to have dinner there that night. So in a 5-second period, at 6:02 on a Monday evening, they grabbed that car. And I will tell you this, the police, we didn't know about it because we had dinner. My wife sends me home, and then she was taking care of the house, and she called around 9 o'clock, said, "Where's the car?" I said, "Well, I thought you walked up," because we only live a half a block away. We called the police, they were fantastic. And we were able to see on my son's cameras, at 6:02 they stole it. And a particular officer, Officer Martin, who was fantastic, took all the information and was pushing to try and see if they could track it. He said, in all likelihood, it's part of a gang, and it's probably in Newark. He called later that evening and said they got a hit on my wife's license plate. And the hit was from Newark, New Jersey at 8:30. Car stolen at 6:02. It's in Newark, New Jersey at 8:30 that evening. And they did it without any hesitation and without any fear. And then 2.5 days later, they robbed at gunpoint down across from Zumos a gentleman's car. And they had been walking in the parking lot of St. Paul's, because St. Paul's had an event. There were cars there. Now think of that. That's 200 children and their parents and the kids there. Had they come out, what would have happened? And those two folks had guns. Now, when they were arrested because the cell phone was left in that car, and the police again did a fantastic job, and with the state police of Pennsylvania and the New Jersey State Police, they were able to get them. They've admitted to that crime, they've admitted to stealing my wife's car, and they've admitted to stealing other cars over a 4-month period. But the concern that everybody has is obviously police protection. And I have no complaints. I thought Chief did a great job. Disco Martin was fantastic. The mayor's office has been great. But think about those kids at St. Paul's. What if a parent just came out to leave that event early and saw someone going by their car and confronted them? Like you say, hey, what's going on? And they pulled a gun, and a little kid. So I would like to also encourage the entire city administration, and again, I have no complaints. I think everybody's been doing a fantastic job helping us. But I do think we need more protection. And I think we need more help down by St. Paul's because of the different traffic of people there. And if you're not a resident of Scranton, or maybe even a resident of Greenridge, you're traveling Greenridge Street, you don't realize there's a school a half a block off Greenridge Street, where 200 kids are going in and out, and there's parking on both sides. So if there's any way there could be an evaluation as to whether we could have more traffic control devices that would alert drivers that, hey, there's a school there, and because as all drivers are, you're going up that Greenridge Street, and there's 3 or 4 blocks between lights. You could end up, going a little too fast for conditions, and a child could dart out between the car, and there could be something unfortunate. So thank you for giving me the time, and I do appreciate all the help you guys are doing, and I know it's a tough job you have. One personal thing I like to say, I want to congratulate Attorney Sean Gallagher, because I assume this is his last meeting.
Next week.
He's going to be a judge, and he's going to continue serving the people well.
We're going to put him to work for one more week. Attorney Doherty, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Tom Coyne, Manuka. Ron brought up, and I had actually keyed something off in my brain. The government needs more breathing room. We heard that from the county, that they need more money because they don't have enough buffer that's recommended for the government to actually have. It's kind of amazing when the city needs more breathing room, when the citizens are fighting for their last breath. The city needs more breathing room to operate as people are trying to hold on to their last dollar to feed themselves, to pay the bills, and to keep themselves in the home from not being homeless on railroad tracks, because we know how much homeless is approved of. I think we have a problem with too much breathing room when the citizens cannot financially operate themselves. In those times, city government, county government gets breathing room by tightening its belt, reducing expenses, and looking to where it can cut, just as the citizens in the city and county have to cut to make that budget line. Because unlike bodies who can just tax more, they can't just say, I'm going to increase the amount of money I make by whatever I wish to by fiat, because their budget doesn't change. The amount coming in, they can't say, I want you to pay me 4 to 50% more, just so I can be comfortable and make a little bit of bank room myself. In the review of the changes, I see that there isn't any, there's budget cuts, but there's nothing about the cuts for all those budget increases from the employee raises for administration from 4% to 50% in this budget. It seems that the raises are flying through without opposition. And in that, I would like, when that comes up, that maybe one of the council members can put a motion to put a pay freeze on for all of the administrative non-union jobs, so we can actually physically see, as it gets voted down, who approves of this and who doesn't, rather than a behind-the-doors conversation of, well, we'll just let this pass. It'd be nice to see it physically put on record on who thinks that everyone should deserve more money while the people in the city of Scranton are starving. The HUP test is an 8th order. I understand I brought forward that there was room for bargaining that was put in the document itself, but we've been waiting for feedback on that, and I'm concerned that the HUP test is going to stay in 8th order and dissolve away, even though it's critical to this body.
We're moving it out of 8th next week, and we're going to vote on it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Also, Mr. Coyne, President King did speak with the administration, and there was a reduction from negotiations.
Thank you. And last, tax forgiveness. We've talked about tax forgiveness from the impacted communities. I don't see anything before this board yet.
We're getting very close to finalizing that.
It's been September 9th, and you've had 2 months to get very close and to move forward and go forward.
But just keep in mind, we had to determine which homes were actually going to be condemned, so that took several months before we could determine who we're going to provide that tax relief to.
Maybe you just need to do it on a limit of 25% damage or 25% impact, rather than saying that to qualify, you have to have lost everything. Maybe the human thing to do is to base it on the percentage of damage, like I said last week, doubled up to 50%. At 50% or more, you get 100% tax relief for that year. If you have 10%, you get 20%. Everyone who is impacted with it deserves a slice of care and comfort. And unfortunately for this holiday season, it's dragging along towards the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coyne. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Good evening, Council. Dave Dobson. While we're on the subject of tax relief, it popped into my head last week. How about if we explore tax relief for victims of fire? Not every house burns down every week, but it is pretty troubling when you get somebody walks up to you in work and tells you, oh, your house is on fire. Happened to me 23 years ago, and it wasn't a fun winter going over there and trying to retrieve my belongings. And I didn't have any property taxes due on the house, but I can only imagine what some people go through. Okay, I would say we should look into, somebody said a week or two ago about a shortage on the police force, so if that's a problem, it should be looked into. Can handle that later. And the water, I find it very egregious that they don't plan on having a hearing in Scranton. I was at one years ago, and our two representatives that were concerned with Scranton at the time were objecting to the rates, but they weren't objecting to what this business of paying for sewage plants outside the city, and the fact that our money was going to be contributing to this for outlying areas and who knows where. Certainly everybody wants clean water, and clean water is best started at the source, but that bill is totally egregious. My bill is 250% of what it was maybe 10 years ago. So, I mean, that's outrageous, and it is a necessity. And if an inspector came by and said, oh, Mr. Dobson, you don't have water, oh, well, he could put a condemned sticker on my house until I got whatever was wrong with the water supply corrected. So it's really important that we not have these utilities just gouging and tearing the town down around us. It's too many people are winding up on Porchville for vacation, and all they can do is sit there and wish they could pay their bills. And once again on taxes, now I am not proposing that tax exempts pay taxes. What I'm proposing is that because the state constitution requires us to accept these entities irregardless, and we have no recourse on it, we can only ask them for a pilot, and that's a pittance of what the taxes would be. One institution, I was at a school board meeting, and Chris Phillips spoke. He's no longer in town here. And according to him, From 1992 to about 2009 or 2011, that entity would have paid $29 million to the school alone. So, I mean, the amount of money is just flabbergasting. I'm proposing that the state be barred forevermore, unless they want to replace the taxes, that they can no longer do this. To just push all the tax exempts into one area and expect to, because that's where we're at. I mean, the police force and stuff like that, all of that costs money. And, you know, put a policeman on the street and in a car and everything else, I mean, it has to be 120 grand a year even for a startup guy or a lady. So thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Dobson. You too. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard?
Hello, Council. Rick Little, Scranton. Seems like everything's going to hell. And not only around here, but all over the world. And you hear about this thing called woke, which is willingly overlooking known evil. There's a lot of fear, and law is a business. People are paid very well to enforce laws, but in America, it's supposed to go back to the original documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. But they don't even teach that in the schools anymore. It's all like manipulated pretty much by the media. And it's really communism. I mean, we're not as bad as California, Chicago, New York City, Seattle, Portland. There's a great book to read by Andy Ngo about just what happened when all the anarchy happened in all these places, and then the shutdown, and you know, and now we got, you know, after George Floyd, the guy that was convicted, everybody's watching the court case and thinking they know what's going on. They don't. It's basically the judiciary and the media, and the devil is in the details, and people should know the details. Everybody says, oh, there's not enough money. But people usually say that, they're talking about the federal money. They've got their jobs, they got their people under them who have their jobs, and they're just waiting for the federal money. And this is, you know, I call it a Democrat thing. Even though I used to be a Democrat, I see that as a problem. It's just a basic woke problem because people are living 50, 60 years in the past. The money's not gone, it's being moved around to different places where people can't see it. And I think, you know, since the money has been moved around for Electric City TV, and they're using it for government, why don't we make a law that Electric City TV, public access TV, video the board meetings of all 11 boards, so people can see what's going on? Because lots of times I've tried to get into those meetings, and they have ways of shutting you out, locking the door. It's the bureaucracy. And when you see these boards, these agencies having TV commercials, everyone knows how much TV commercials cost, and yet, you know, Area Agency on Aging, Lackawanna Pro Bono, Advocacy Alliance, Women's Resources, political judges and candidates. There's these ads. Who's paying for them? No one knows where the money's coming from, but, they can't have it both ways. And people should have a little bit of transparency of how their government is working. There's just a lot of fear. There's like I said, everything's going to hell. You're watching the news, and you're seeing the carjackings, the murders, the property declines. There's a general thing to attack sex, age, race, and behind it is equality and equity. Something that I've looked into a lot. It basically changed in 1871 when we went into maritime law. That's why in the family courts you can't raise constitutional issues. And in most courts, we're living under maritime law. The Federal Reserve is offshore bank. We have problems in America, and people have to wake up. And this woke thing, it's willingly overlooking known evil. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Is there anyone else who'd like to be heard?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Smurl, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I do. First, I wasn't unaware that Greenridge did not have a police car assigned to it, and I see that Councilman McAndrew is going to make a motion to replace the car and whatever else we need to do there, and I fully support that. And also the 400 and 500 block, Mr. Voldenberg, of Lackawanna Avenue, there are a minimum of 12 streetlights out, and I have people that have called multiple times to have them repaired. I don't know if because we're going to be working on that street in the future, we're not repairing them, but it's an unsafe condition. So if you could send that to, I believe it's Director Petrofes, if we can send that to him.
I will, sir.
And also one other thing to send to code enforcement, I call them phone tents. I see them around town now, and someone told me they hand out phones for free. I find it hard to believe, but nothing's free that I've ever seen. But are they a business? Can we find out if they're a business? If they hand out phones for free, but are they selling internet access? If they're selling internet access, they're certainly not a nonprofit. I believe they're a business. So if we could find out if they are, they need to be licensed and pay taxes like everyone else.
I'll look into it tomorrow, sir.
Okay, thank you. And now the budget. I have a few comments on the budget. I did meet with Council President King to discuss this. We met a week or so ago and discussed a lot of the jobs and the cuts and stuff. But the increases that we must pay first due to all the contractual obligations. Our Scranton Police Department is getting 3% raise actually this year and 3.5% 2024. Fire Department is 2% this year and 2.5% in 2024. DPW 3.5%, Single Tax Office 5%, and our MMO is going up by $3.1 million. Okay, the clerical union contract is up. I'm assuming there's going to be raises there also. So I expect increases, but when we went over the budget, we did not cut any jobs. A lot of the pay raises were decreased. I'm not happy with that, but I won't eliminate raises for non-union residents and people that work for the City of Scranton while handing out raises to everyone else. I don't think that's fair to them. I don't think it's fair to anybody that gets up and goes to work every day for the City of Scranton to be denied a raise while everybody in the union gets a raise. So the reason I mention all of that is because if we've got to pay for all of these jobs, and if we do not do a minimum tax increase every year or every other year, it seems that we may run into in the future what we had run into in the past, where my tax bills pretty much doubled. That's because we borrowed money to pay, we pay interest on borrowing money, we pay money just to pay for these loans, to get these loans, and so I don't believe that by not raising taxes is the right thing to do. I think we need that to keep us balanced, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Smurl. Mr. Schuster?
I will keep my budget comments on the question. We will be voting on that tonight, so as Mr. Smurl did, my comments on the budget, I'll say for on the question. And I'm going to more so focus on this tonight, but two comments here in fifth order. One was Mr. McAndrew, if he makes a motion to add the police presence to Greenridge, I will be supporting him in that. And the things I heard tonight, I grew up in Tripp Park as a child, and the neighborhood that you described is the neighborhood that I grew up in, and I've seen the crime that's coming across our city. I've seen shootings on Hawthorne Street where I grew up. I think last year we had a shooting or a murder in the city every month of the year. So crime is raising across the city, but budgetarily, I wish that there was more in the budget that was going for crime prevention and getting more presence on the streets. The second thing for fifth order is last night the Scranton Housing Authority, they had the opportunity, it was brought up in public comment tonight about fund relief for the flood victims. There was some unrestricted funds that they could have utilized for flood victims last night, and they chose to vote this down. I think it failed on a 2-2 vote, and I'd just like to say I was disappointed to see that those funds couldn't be utilized for flood victims. That's all I have for tonight for fifth order.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Dr. Rothchild?
Yes, I have a few things. First, I definitely want to voice my support as well for there to be a patrol car in Greenridge, especially with what's been going on, and to prevent additional car thefts or hijacking or even an escalation of the crime that we're seeing there now. And I also wanted to bring up an update that I had seen today from our Scranton DPW, and this is in reference to the flooding over in Kaiser Valley, and we've had many residents come to discuss that before, especially the 24-inch pipe that there's been a particular issue with. And so today they got to work on it. They said they exposed and are jetting to open it up, clean the debris from this 24-inch pipe, and they're hoping to have the pipe flowing before Christmas. So that would be really welcome news for the residents there. I was really happy to see that that work is being done. And there's one additional thing that I wanted to bring up from some of the comments in citizens' participation. I've made this, I thought I made this clear in the past, and just wanted to reiterate again my support for Israel. I think I'm maybe the only council member up here that could say that their blood is of Ashkenazi Jew. And so the things that are happening there have, I feel like affected me, and it's been on my mind a lot as well. And I'd be supportive of us having the flag in front of the city too. So I know that's the mayor's decision as to whether or not she wants to fly it, but I would, just like to be on the record that I would be in support of having that up there. And it's not that I'm anti-Palestine, but I am anti-Hamas and anti-terrorism and pro-human rights. So that's where I stand. Thank you. And I also hope that, I don't think other council members have spoken on it, so if others feel strongly about that we should have the flag in front of City Hall, I'd encourage them to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rothchild. Mr. McAndrew?
Okay, so I have a couple things. I want to report out concerns that I brought forward last week. The Meadow Avenue traffic study, because of the concerns with the hotel, it's under review by the city engineer, DPW and SPD. Also, the Blair Avenue issue with the house, the rear of 1111 Blair Avenue. It is condemned. It's on the demolition list, but there's a rodent issue. There's windows open. The cellar doors are open. So my understanding is that we're still waiting on a response from that. And then also Mr. Spindler brought up, which I brought up last week regarding the Novembrino gate being left open at night. So we're still awaiting a response from Parks and Recs, confirmation to ensure that Novembrino Park Gate is locked at dusk, and a resolution for the Western Field open window and fan during the day, which is beyond me. So we're still waiting on answers for that. But I do have some answers. So the crosswalks. Ms. Augustini, you were asking about, let's get the list for next year. Let's see, you know. So I did get the list. And I think they should be put on the website, or at least you get a copy, or someone on the website so everybody has a copy. I'm not going to go through the list of them, but I'd like to see them. But in addition to the crosswalks that are on the list, which Mr. Voldenberg will get to you and get on the website, let's add the school zone that was spoke of tonight at St. Clair's. All right, make that part of next year's crosswalks.
I'll have
Please.
it added.
Send that over. What else was, so last week I also asked about on the leaves that are piling up on Mountain, Yazoo Lane. They've doubled since last week. We didn't get a response, right?
That's correct, sir.
Right, and you know, and this is concerned resident, and she, you know what, she was right. Like I said, residents are mostly right all the time. She said, the leaves have doubled. We had a beautiful weather the past week. Why weren't they vacuumed up? She says, now they appear to come from the firehouse all the way down to Yesu's Lane. So could you circle around and get some type of answer? We got a vac truck, spent a ton of money on it. All right? So in addition to that, because we have some other people about leaf bag pickup issues that stated, you know, I put them out, they weren't picked up. I drove them myself, not meaning me, the resident, which was ridiculous, over to DPW. So we reached out to Mr. Petrofis, the director, and what I'm happy to report out is this is an updated schedule. I only have for December, but the leaf bag pickup will follow recycling schedule 12/4 through 12/8 and 12/18 through 12/22. And that means, you know, when your cardboard goes out, so are the leaves. So let's hope they stay on task with this pickup. And then, what else? Lastly, so not less than 3 weeks ago, we had the departments then presenting their budgets and defending their, you know, their proposals. And when you know, the police department was here, obviously, you know, presenting his. And before it was over, if there was any questions, I brought up concerns that were brought to me by residents. And they were either cars being stolen and or carjacked. And the chief told me, well, you know, there's some cars being stolen. There's these models, these Hyundai models that are easily able to steal. Kids are taking joyrides, you know, riding around and ditching them. But I said, well, you know, what about carjacking? I said, because I'm here, I hear that it's happening. And the outcomes are horrific throughout the country, just reading the paper and watching TV. People are dying from carjackings. And he said, oh, that's not here yet. We're not there yet. Well, we were. I understood that we were. I wish, because my concern was if the public doesn't know that these aren't joyriders, there's actually gang members from Newark coming here, stealing cars with guns, taking them to Newark, they're filing off the VIN numbers or whatever, they're putting them on ship containers and sending them to Africa. I found that out on my own, right? So that concerned me. So it is happening. And I'm thrilled that Greenridge is here tonight and voicing their concerns, because my concern was somebody does, if you're not aware, education awareness, you can walk out of your house and see two kids and think they're teenagers and shoo them away where they're actually gang members from Newark. So that needs to be out there. I'm glad it's out there. I'm glad you're here tonight as a group with your concern, because you know what, you are a target. Whether it's not any surprise that they're stealing. Not the joyriders, the gang members are stealing upscale cars, and guess where most of them reside in the city? It's safe to say it's Greenridge. It's not a surprise. So I'm thrilled that you came tonight as a force. And you know, I also didn't know that you didn't have a patrol car. I live in West Side, there's West 1, I'm familiar with it. I didn't know that you used to have one and didn't have one. So with that said, and I promised as the chairman of the Committee on Public Safety, I will make a motion tonight, and I'm going to do that right now. With that said, I'd like to make a motion to reinstate or replace in the Greenridge section of Scranton a patrol car they once had because of the obvious need that now exists.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to reinstate a patrol car in the Greenridge section of Scranton. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved. Thank you, Director McAndrew.
Thank you.
Councilman McAndrew. Former Director McAndrew.
Yeah, let's not go back, all right?
Yeah, we're going backwards. Okay, so I have a few things. I got an email from a constituent as well about leaves. This poor woman had waited and called and waited, and ultimately she had to pay for a hauler to take the leaves. And so I had to send an apologetic email response to her that happened, that she had to experience this. And I forwarded the information to Scott Petrofis, our DPW director. This has been an issue this year for whatever reason, and I'm hoping that this can be corrected moving into 2024, because it's a big issue, because, you know, the city, it's a beautiful city. We have tons of trees throughout this city, and they create tons of leaves. And as Mr. McAndrew, or someone, I think it was Mr. McAndrew, indicated during caucus, wet leaves are basically the same as ice. You try to stop on wet leaves, you'll slide right through a stop sign. It's dangerous, and I just think it's important that we make that a priority to make sure that we have consistent leaf pickup throughout the city. So I will encourage our DPW to continue to work on improving upon that. A few responses from last week. 1024 Maple Street, Mr. Patrick LaFrance's claim is under review by the Director of Licensing and Inspection. And Mr. LaFrance, we will advise as soon as we get a response back from the LIPS department. 702, 708 Connell Street, neighbors claim that the property owner was operating a painting business on a lot. Council forwarded this information to code enforcement and to LIPS to investigate. On Snook Street and Seymour Avenue, this was Marie Schumacher brought this up. Council submitted that concern to DPW Director for review and action to remedy the water runoff issue that's occurring. We know that's part of the stormwater remediation project that's going to happen in the spring, but there's some pretty serious issues right now with that drainage and water runoff coming down Snook Street. So they're working on a solution to resolve that issue for the winter, because that will quickly turn to ice. I will speak on the budget when that item comes up for vote later. I do too appreciate the fact that the members of the Greenridge Neighborhood Association have come here this evening, just as I appreciated all the neighbors from West Scranton who came here and from North Scranton with their concerns about the flood. That shows that government is working, and that the people, you know, have the opportunity to come in here, express their concerns, and then we as elected officials are held responsible for trying to ameliorate whatever problems exist for the citizens. It's our job to try to, you know, make the city a better place for all of us to live. The vast majority of us up here were born and raised in this city. We all care about this city. We all have our families here. We have children, grandchildren, grandparents, brothers, sisters, a long history in this city, and every one of us wants nothing more than to make the city of Scranton a great place to live, a safe place to live, a great place to raise our families, and to make sure that we provide the resources necessary to make that happen as well. So I do appreciate everyone coming here. I mean, sometimes people feel like, oh, we didn't come here, you know, adversarial. That wasn't adversarial. That was doing your job as a citizen and a member of the Greenridge Neighborhood Association. And as I said earlier, when the people came here for the flooding, we appreciate when you come here and express your concerns, because, you know, sometimes there's things going on that we aren't even aware of. So it's important that the citizens come here and make us aware of them so that we can try to take some action to address those issues. So I appreciate that. And that's all I have at this time.
5B for introduction, a resolution, amending resolution number 297 of 2023 entitled, ratifying and approving the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton on behalf of the Greenridge Little League to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, acting through the Commonwealth Financing Authority for a local share account Monroe grant pursuant to the PA Racehorse Development and Gaming Act for up to $83,000 to be used for the project to be known as the Greenridge Little League Field and Facilities Revitalization Initiative, permitting the increase in grant value to account for administrative fee.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a contract with U.S. Digital Designs by Honeywell to furnish the City of Scranton Fire Department with fire station alerting equipment.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question,
On the question, in caucus tonight, some questions arose. Solicitor Gallagher brought up some concerns he had with the contract and getting some clarification from administration. I don't know, Mr. Gallagher, if you'd like to expand on that.
Yeah, in the body of the agreement, that indicates a service agreement. I would like to know if the service agreement is in addition to the $489,000 or is it included. There's, in the RFP, it indicated it's 3 years. The payments for the lease are 3.75. The contract's for 5. So if we could just get some clarification on that. And if it indicated in the RFP that if they change the scope, that the respondent will be agreeable to the change and any price adjustment will be made in writing. If you're changing the scope of the agreement, I would think that you would have to reissue the RFP and or the contract unless it's below the bidding threshold. So just those clarifications.
thank you, Attorney Gallagher. Also on the question, I appreciate you bringing up those questions. I think that it's important that we get answers to those questions before we take a final vote on that. I would hope that we can at least introduce that this evening, because we have one more meeting left prior to the holiday break. All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and submit a grant application on behalf of Catholic Social Services to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, acting through the Commonwealth Financing Authority for a local share account Monroe grant pursuant to the PA Racehorse Development and Gaming Act for up to $522,000 to be used towards the St. James Manor renovation project.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction, a resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials of Scranton to execute and submit a grant application to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, acting through the Commonwealth Financing Authority for a local share account statewide grant pursuant to the PA Racehorse Development and Gaming Act for up to $1 million to be used toward the new South Scranton Salt Storage Facility project.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, filed to council number 101, 2023, an ordinance enacting the towing ordinance of 2023 by repealing and replacing the city's towing and storage code.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question.
On the question, I would like to make a motion to table item 6A.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to table item 6A on the question. On the question, myself and Councilman Smurl sat in a meeting with the mayor and Solicitor Esquire and Solicitor Cotillo, along with like 14 or 15 different contractors, and there were some concerns about the changes that were being made with this towing ordinance, and we decided to allow the vendors to form a small committee to come back and express what their concerns are, so we can consider possibly amending the ordinance and possibly bringing it back again in January for more consideration. All those in favor of tabling signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion is tabled.
6B, reading by title, file to council number 102, 2023, an ordinance amending file to council number 100, 1976, entitled an ordinance as amended, levying general and special taxes for the fiscal year 1977 by setting the millage for the year 2024, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6C pass reading by title.
Second.
B, I'm sorry.
On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No?
The ayes have it, and so moved.
6C, reading by title, file to council number 103, 2023, an ordinance amending file to council number 11, 1976, entitled an ordinance as amended enacting, imposing a tax for general revenue purposes in the amount of 2% on earned income and net profits on persons, individuals, associations, and businesses who are residents of the City of Scranton or non-residents of the City of Scranton for work done, services performed, or business conducted within the City of Scranton, requiring the filing of returns by taxpayers subject to the tax, requiring employers to collect the tax at source, providing for the administration, collection, and enforcement of the said tax, and imposing penalties for the violations by reenacting the imposition of the wage tax at 2 4/10% on earned income for residents and 1% on earned income for non-residents of the City of Scranton for work done, services performed, or business conducted within the City of Scranton for the year 2024, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6C. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6C pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6D, reading by title, file to council number 104, 2023, an ordinance for the general revenue by imposing a payroll tax on the amount of payroll expense generated as a result of a business conducting business activity within the city, and to be levied at a rate of 0.2787%, requiring registration and payment of the tax as condition of the conducting of such business, providing for the levy and collection of such tax, prescribing such requirements for returns and records, conferring powers and duties upon the tax collector, and imposing penalties for 2024.
You've heard reading by title item 6D. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6D pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6D, reading by title, file to council number 105, 2023, ordinance, amending file to council number 6, 1976, entitled an ordinance as amended, imposing a tax for general revenue purposes on the transfer of real property situate within the City of Scranton, prescribing and regulating the method of evidencing the payment of such tax, conferring powers and imposing duties upon certain persons, and providing penalties, by imposing the rate of the realty transfer tax at 2 2/10% for calendar year 2024, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
You've heard reading by title of item 6E. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6E pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6F, reading by title, filed to council number 106, 2023, an ordinance amending filed to council number 59, 2019, entitled, an ordinance amending filed to council number 17, 1994, entitled, an ordinance as amended, authorizing the governing body of the City of Scranton to enact a waste disposal and collection fee for the purpose of raising revenue to cover the waste disposal and collection costs incurred by the City of Scranton for the disposal of refuse, by imposing a waste of disposal and collection fee of $300 for calendar year 2020, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter, to levy the same for calendar year 2024.
You've heard reading by title of item 6F. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that item 6F pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, resolution number 349, 2023, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into any and all documents necessary to purchase the property situate at 501 West Market Street, Scranton, PA 18508.
What is the recommendation of the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
Yes.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, previously tabled, filed to council number 98, 2023, appropriating funds for the expenses of the city government for the period commencing on the first day of January 2024 to and including December 31st, 2024, by the adoption of the general city operating budget for the year 2024.
I'd like to make a motion to amend item 7B as follows. Under revenue, amend account number 100 30100 301 000 000000 real estate tax improvements to decrease the dollar amount from $14,025,221 to $13,821,958.52. Number 2, amend account number 100 30530 301 000 000000 real estate tax land to decrease the dollar amount from $20,289,336 to $19,995,288.09. Number 3, under revenue, amend account number 100 31110 310 000 000 real estate tax, transfer tax to increase the dollar amount from $5,400,000 to $5,500,000. And number 4, under revenue, amend account number 100 31120 310 000 000 current wage tax to increase the dollar amount from $33,168,450 to $33,383,813.44. Expenditures. Amend account number 100 45000 000 903 000 non-departmental expenditures. Scranton tomorrow to decrease the dollar amount from $135,000 to $127,000. Number 2, amend account number 100 45000 000 915 000, non-departmental expenditures, Scranton Arts Committee to decrease the dollar amount from $15,000 to $13,721.93. Number 3, amend account number 100, 45000, 946, 000, non-departmental expenditures, Ethics Board to decrease the dollar amount from $10,000 to $7,000. Number 4, amend account number 100, 45000, 954, 000, non-departmental expenditures, Shade Tree Commission to decrease the dollar amount from $175,000 to $160,000. Number 5, amend account number 100, 44201, 140, 140, 000, Business Administration, Professional Services to decrease the dollar amount from $601,500 to $580,000. Amend number 6, amend account number 100, 44010, 140, 140, 000, Business Administration, Standard Salary to decrease the dollar amount from $541,666.54 to $540,091.54. Number 7, amend account number 100, 44201, 141, 140, 000, Human Resources, Professional Services to decrease the dollar amount from $750,000 to $730,000. Number 8, amend account number 100, 44010, 111, 178, 000, Bureau of Fire Standard Salary to decrease the dollar amount from $11,398,295.35 to $11,395,670.35. Number 9, amend account number 100, 44040, 111, 178, 000, Bureau of Fire Other Salary to decrease the dollar amount from $493,000 to $444,827.18. Number 10, amend account number 100, 44010, 140, 142, 000, Information Technology. Standard salary to decrease the dollar amount from $241,283.74 to $238,090. Number 11, amend account number 100, 44010, 140, 143, 000, Treasurer, standard salary to increase the dollar amount from $142,631.97 to $143,769.54. Number 12, amend account number 100, 44010, 151, 151, 000, Code Enforcement, standard salary to decrease the dollar amount from $1,006,316.77 to $993,076.77. Number 13, amend account number 100, 44010, 160, 000, Law Department, standard salary to decrease the dollar amount from $457,671.46 to $457,921.57. Number 14, amend account number 100, 44010, 180, 180, 000, DPW Administration, standard salary decrease the dollar amount from $280,144.43 to $277,394.43. Number 15, amend account number 100, 44010, 180, 183, 000, DPW Highways, standard salary to decrease the dollar amount from $1,551,624.91 to $1,550,124.91. Number 16, amend account number 100, 44080 180 183 000 DPW Highways, overtime salary to decrease the dollar amount from $300,000 to $287,500. Number 17, amend account number 100, 44010 180 184 000 DPW Refuge, standard salary to decrease the dollar amount from $2,439,270.16 to $2,437,770.16. Number 18, amend account number 100, 44080 180 184 000 DPW Refuge, overtime salary to decrease the dollar amount from $220,000 to $207,500. And number 19, amend account number 100, 44010 200 000 Parks and Recreation, standard salary, decrease dollar amount from $819,159.39 to $806,159.39.
Second.
All those in favor of amendments signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. What is the recommendation, Chairperson of the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final vote of item 7B.
Second.
On the question.
On the question. Tonight I said I'd focus on the budget, so first I'd like to commend President King for his work on the 2024 budget. He did make some expenditure cuts over the last few weeks. So what we have here tonight from council totals about $182,470 of expenditure cuts from the original budget. When I took a look at the budget, I made some suggestions. I made 29 suggestions for amendments, and those suggestions totaled $875,555 in savings, which did cover the total tax increase. The areas that I did target were professional services between two line items. I decreased those by $436,285. Keep in mind, last year we had 2 CBAs that we were negotiating and had arbitration. This year we only have 1. Other area I targeted was salaries and new positions. And the third item that I targeted was city entities that didn't utilize their funding from the last 2 to 3 years. There was only 3 of these. They were smaller in number, but they've had line items sitting there for 3 years that haven't been utilized, and I felt they could have been removed since they haven't been utilized. With that said, my target areas were not cutting funds that affected the residents of the city, so I hope I'm making that clear. They didn't affect the residents of the city of Scranton. Each year on council, I've abided by Pell with the recommendations, and the concerns I've had were some of Pell's concerns, that addition of personnel and additions of legacy costs add to future budget deficits. They've always stated that Scranton expenditures, the expenditure growth outpaces our revenue growth, and this is something that causes budget deficits down the road. As for the tax increase, I would support a modest annual tax increase. I don't have an issue with that. If those increases are benefiting the residents of the city. I think one thing that was said tonight was the increase of crime in Greenridge, and not only is it happening in Greenridge, it's happening everywhere. I don't think the budget addresses this. What I do see is some new positions that I feel we've added many positions over the last 3 years, and we've seen salary increases. And one thing, initially I did state a pay freeze in my 28, 29 amendments that I put forward. I did not freeze any salaries. I did have a 1.9% increase. And don't forget that over the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen major increases that have far outpaced what happens in the private sector. So tonight I will be voting no on the 2024 budget.
Anyone else on the question? On the question, I will be voting for this budget. I do appreciate all my colleagues here on council who helped contribute toward a lot of work that went into trying to reduce the 3.5% tax increase recommended by the mayor to get it down to 2%. It wasn't easy. Anytime you have 5 different people, if you have 5 different opinions, the reasons why I'm supporting this tax increase are the fact that PEL has indicated that the City of Scranton, having come out of Act 47, it's important that we do small incremental tax increases over the next few years to ensure that we have continual funding to keep our city running and to support, our professional Scranton Police Fire Department, Scranton Police Department, who were just, had an arbitration award for their contracts, along with the pension contributions. This budget will go to fund 9 major park projects going into this next year. It's important to note that we've had $1 million loss in valuation, and with the cost of health care increasing and other costs, I felt it was important for us to do a small incremental tax increase. Don't enjoy having to impose a tax increase at all, but unfortunately, I've seen our city get itself in big trouble when we did not, and typically it happens in election years where we say, well, we're not going to have a tax increase because I'm running this year. I don't want to get reelected, or I won't make sure I get reelected, so we won't do a tax increase. That's not the case here. I mean, this is the second year in a row. Last year it was recommended a 3% increase. We got it down to 2% last year. This year, 3.5%. We got it down to 2%. I think it's a fair budget. I think it was a compromise budget. I think that it's important that we maintain these continual small incremental tax increases to keep our city moving forward. It does include 2 new positions which council had asked for to attack blight in our city and really to focus on those areas, and I appreciate being able to add those this year. So I will be supporting the amendments to this tax increase. Anyone else on the question?
On the question, a number of things that I wanted to bring up with regards to the budget. So first, I take the budget process very seriously, and any potential increase to our taxpayers. I know the first 2 or 3 years I was on council, we didn't increase the taxes, and last year there was the 2% increase. And I also do not enjoy having to consider that or increase taxes, and I understand the burden of not just the city property taxes, but then factoring in the school district and the county as well. I do believe that the budget is fair and was carefully considered. I appreciate all the work that the council members, especially Councilman King, had put into the budget and in trying to lessen the proposed tax raise as much as possible. And I know Councilman Smurl also had brought up all the different increased costs that we have had to the city this year and this coming year that we need to be able to curtail with this budget. I also want to say I appreciate all of our city employees. I believe that we have hardworking employees throughout all of our departments, not just 1 or 2 of them. And I think that there are justifications for raises for employees, for non-union employees. And I believe that we adjusted to them to what we thought was going to be appropriate and fair. And you did see many of those changes in the amendments that were proposed tonight for the budget. I would like to see next year that the proposed raises for employees be considered based on the performance reviews and evaluations that have been started this fall. I think that will be helpful in determining future raises. And I also don't believe that raises are equal to the tax increase. There's so much more that's incorporated into this budget, and I think that we will be doing for the city in 2024 and for the citizens that I'm excited about, and I'm glad that this budget allows us to do that. So I'll be supporting the amended budget tonight. Thank you.
On the question, so I do appreciate the time and effort of my colleagues during this amended budget process and its tax hike reduction from 3.5 to 2%. I also realize that to be fiscally responsible, because of recently exiting Act 47, we should do incremental tax increases. I would have liked to have seen the tax increase reduced to 1% to satisfy the unavoidable expenditures, and without nice to have versus need to have new positions. And we, no one took into account that every new position they presented to us with large salaries, you had to add 30 grand to it for benefits. So total compensation are close to 100 grand for some of these new positions that people hadn't realized or should realize. I wanted to see lower across-the-board raises like what's seen in industry. Fair for all, okay? With inflation at its highest in 40 years, and with the county raising taxes 5.9%, the school district proposing close to 2%, and then now here 2%, it's almost 10% increase for the residents of Scranton that are struggling, not only with this, with water rate, potential water rate increases, and et cetera. Every year during budget time, we hear from the city's administration about comparable cities and salaries and how we are lower. For the past 2 budgets, the same people received above average increases. Guess what? The cities that we were always being compared to did not just come out of Act 47 distress status. They also don't have a shrinking population like we do, and they don't pay a 3.4 wage tax. This year's tax increase, like last year's, benefit a few of the city's employees and not the residents. Increases should benefit both the residents and the employees. If this year the administration presented an incremental tax increase that did not include new positions and above average raises, and instead proposed something like, let's change every street and court sign in the city once and for all, and pave every street that didn't make the paving list, or that the one that on the list and then taken off the list and have to wait indefinitely, I would have voted yes for an increase that would benefit the many and not the few.
Is there anyone else on the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Smurl?
Yes.
Mr. Schuster?
No.
Dr. Rothchild?
Yes.
Mr. McAndrew?
No.
Mr. King?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B as amended legally and lawfully adopted.
Eighth order, 8A, filed to council number 64, 2023.
This ordinance is creating an overtime reporting requirement for all city departments and employees. It's been tabled until we receive additional information from the administration.
8B, filed to council number 98, 2023.
This ordinance is the operating budget for 2024, has been taken from the table and voted on in 7th order this evening.
That's the last one.
8C, this resolution is to allow for city officials to enter into an easement by and between PPL Electric Utilities and the City of Scranton for a property as noted located along Amelia Avenue. And 8D, this resolution is a contract with Rudolph Clark LLC to perform a review of non-taxable properties for the city. It has been tabled until additional information has been received. That information has been received, and I expect that to be voted on next week. If there's no further business,
We do have.
oh, excuse me. What do I
Want to
have?
remind?
Oh, I have 2 things before we go. Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Yep.
So We talked about this during caucus, the Pennsylvania Utility Commission. I have I have 2 copies on me right now, but been meeting with Senator Flynn and talking with Senator Flynn's office, Brian Doughton, and also communicating with Kyle Donahue directly, along with Tom Welby from Representative Bridget Kozarowski's office and Kyle Mullen's office. There's going to be a concerted effort to try to get at least 500 citizens of the city of Scranton to fill out a formal complaint to the Public Utility Commission. And it's my understanding that they're going to set up an office across the street from City Hall and try to encourage people, citizens, to stop in, fill the forms out. They'll have them available, have them sign them off, and we'll send those in. On top of the fact, there is going to be, I know, a letter is going to go from City Council along with the mayor of the city, and we've been in communications along with the mayor of Dunmore and Borough Council of Dunmore, who I'm sure will be interested in signing off on that as well, to the Public Utility Commission. And we're looking to be invited to a public hearing in Harrisburg, and we're going to be requesting a public hearing be held here in the city of Scranton. So we haven't forgotten about that, and we're working hard on that as well. Also, just a reminder, tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. at the Kaiser Valley Community Center, there's going to be a meeting on the stormwater. So for everyone from West Scranton and North Scranton, just want to remind you about that meeting tomorrow night. Thank you all. Have a great evening. This meeting's adjourned.